All right, so very good morning to you. It's good to see you on this second day of the month of February. I hope that you've had a better start to the day. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Of course, today on the conversation is all about the advancements when it comes to cancer treatment and, of course, some of the technologies that has been used to make sure that, again, we advance cancer treatment. And this is across the globe because on every fourth day of February, of course, the entire world actually is united, and this is in the fight against the global cancer epidemic by marking the World Cancer Day. That is in 2 days from now. But of course, according to the World Health Organization, cancer is actually a leading cause of death worldwide, accounting for nearly 10 million deaths, and this is in 2020. However, again, like we said, with advancements when it comes to science, some of this cases, that is the number of new cases as well as the number of deaths, can be reduced. But then again, the question is how, and what are some of the available advancements and technologies used in treating cancer? That is what we'll be focusing on the conversation today. You want to stick around until the end of the show if you have a question as far as cancer treatment is concerned, if you have a concern, if there's anything that you want to see, and especially when it comes to cancer treatment, feel free to also engage with us on our socials at EdTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or give us a call live. Of course, we have the perfect person to answer all your questions as far as cancer is concerned. But let's take a look at the numbers. What does it look like, and especially here in the country? So according to the recent report by the Health Ministry, well, we all know that in Kenya, cancer is the third leading cause of death, and this is after infectious and cardiovascular diseases. So what do the cases look like? And this is on a daily basis. Numbers that I want all of us to really think about. So every single day, 115 cases are diagnosed, all right? And then we have 75 people who also lose their life daily, and this is from cancer. Then 60% of the common cancers amongst the female is breast and cervix, and we also have 40% male, and that is prostate and esophageal cancer. Now, how about then the annual incidence of cancer? And this is according to GloboCan, where 47,887 cases of cancer was reported in 2018, and then in 2020 we saw a slight dip of the same at 42,116. But again, the numbers of death, again, like I said, we still lose people to cancer. So the annual mortality, that is 32,987, that was reported in 2018, and in 2020 again was a slight dip, and this is at 27,092 people who lost their lives. And again, this is still big numbers. We do not want to see people losing their lives. So what are some of the commonest types of cancers in the country? Well, of course, the leading is breast cancer. We have cervical cancer, we have prostate cancer, we have esophageal cancer, and of course we also have colorectal cancer. So again, the cost of care, again, we've all seen this and experienced patients who say it's very expensive to treat cancer. So according to per patient, and this is on an annual basis, chemotherapy would cost at an average of 138,207 shillings, and then surgery would cost at around 128,207, and then radiotherapy would cost you averagely 119,036, and of course a combination of all three is quite expensive at 333,462, and this is according to a recent data released by the Health Ministry. So then again, what can be done to, number one, not only reduce the cost of treatment right here in the country, but also the incidences, because like we said, 115 cases of cancer diagnosed every day, and 75 people losing their lives every single day to cancer in the country. Very concerning numbers over there. And like I said, what is it that you want to see change, and especially when it comes to addressing cancer, and of course the whole aspect about treatment of the same? What is it that you want to see? Engage with us, and of course we look forward to hear what you have to say But help us just make sense of all these numbers and even, explore the latest inventions and advancements when it comes to treatment of cancer. We have Professor Dr. Srinivas Chilukuri, who is a consultant oncologist. I really tried to say that slowly so that I did not butcher your name. It's so good to see you this morning. Flew in from India yesterday, so it's good to have you right here this morning to just help us really understand and make sense of all the developments that have been made as far as cancer is concerned. So really, thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, and nice to be here.
And of course, good to have you as well. And of course, joining us via Zoom as well to just give us her experience and her journey as far as cancer is concerned. We'll be having Marina Fuller, who is a cancer warrior. And of course, she's joining us via Zoom all the way from Mombasa. I don't know if you can hear me. Mary, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here today.
All right. And of course, thank you very much really for speaking with us this morning. And there's something that I heard, especially from your story, and this is as far as the first time that you were diagnosed with cancer, is you started planning your funeral. And of course, we'll get to hear from you. Why was this the case? And of course, it's a very difficult period, of course, and especially when you're getting that news. But of course, we'll be joining you in just a moment. But let me begin with you, Dr. Srinivas. Looking at all these numbers, what do you make of this? And this is just like the Kenyan context, as far as the daily cases, the annual, cases, daily incidences, as well as the cost of care. What do you make of it?
So you're absolutely right, and these are very, very critical things which need discussion on a large scale, on a public platforms like yours. And multiple stakeholders need to be involved to reduce the burden of cancer. I think quick fix solutions which come on top of my mind is early detection. Early detection and early detection is the most important thing. Because if we detect cancers early, we can cure them effectively and we can reduce the burden related to mortality. We also, if we detect cancers early, we also can reduce the cost burden on the society, on the patients, on the governments, and on the insurance and private cancer providers. So I think early detection should be the key focus of all countries, including Kenya. And how we do that? We do that by screening. So all men and women, healthy men and women, not those who are symptomatic for some problems, but healthy men and women need to come forward for screening. And there are some approved screening modalities available for the most common cancers. You pointed out the breast and cervical cancers being the most common among females. And both of them are amenable to effective screening modalities. If esophageal and colorectal, I mean, you mentioned the top 2 cancers in men, but if you see the third top cancer in men in Kenya, it is colorectal cancers. And colorectal cancers are also simple early detection tools are available with all of us, which can be done at local hospitals, in a majority of local hospitals. And that can reduce the burden of cancer in the society to a significant level. So I think on the occasion, on the eve of World Cancer Day, which is going to come next 2 days, the biggest message is that you get yourself screened. If you are eligible for screening, of course, women who are above 40 years would be eligible to screen in India for breast, but internationally above 50 years. Cervical cancers above 20 years or once they are sexually active. Colorectal cancers above 50 years, simple stool test or a endoscopy. Prostate cancer just by detection, just by doing a blood test. So again, after 50 years. So if there is an eligible population, if a person is eligible for screening, they do that. They get themselves detected early. And then,
And I'm happy that you've pointed out, because majority of the times we usually talk about go for screening, go for screening, go for screening. But then again, majority of people would not go, because again, there's that fear. What if I go and then they find out this is what is happening? Receiving that information, of course, it's very difficult, in itself. But I don't know when we'll come to that point where we'll just embrace it. You know, whatever happens, it's better to know than not know, or, you know, go to a hospital when the symptoms are there, because there are some cancers that you would not have any symptoms, especially within the stage 1 and stage 2, right? So early detection is very, very key, and I like that. All right, let's speak very quickly to Mary, and then we'll come back to you, Daktari, and that is, Mary, as far as your case is concerned, 2021. Can we just go back to 2021, and when, first of all, did you get your diagnosis?
Breast cancer survivor and founder of Warriors of Hope. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January 2020. I found that I had a lump on my right breast, and the lump was painless. It was a painless lump, and it kept growing. So I went to hospital, and I was subjected to tests. The first test was breast ultrasound, which showed the size of the lump. After the results, the doctor said it was a concern, so I was subjected to another test known as biopsy. I did biopsy and waited for the results, and the biopsy was very, very painful experience. Yeah. And then I went for the results. After a week, I got the results, and they came out positive of malignancy. The doctor who conveyed the message to me did it in a very uncouth way. I was not prepared. I was standing, in fact, and he just said, you have cancer. In fact, he asked, do you know what this means? I told him, no, I don't know. You are the doctor. I cannot interpret the medical terms. He said, this is cancer. Hitting on the paper, this is breast cancer. Go to the clinic, book for clinic, we are going to cut that breast. I was in shock. Anger crept in. I cried. I just grabbed the papers from the doctor. I told him, you are a good doctor. I went out of his office. I screamed until the whole way, all people stood up and came. Somebody took my phone and called my family, my husband and my sons. They came for me. We went home, and we sat down and thought of what to do. I decided to come clean about it. I spread the news to my friends, church, my neighbors. Yeah, and we made a decision to seek for a second opinion on the diagnosis.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what was going through your mind, you know, at this time, because you said the way the information was relayed was, you know, it wasn't the best, and then there's a lot of things that are happening again, you know, at this time. So were you told what stage that was?
Initially, I did not know, because biopsy only shows reveals if you have cancerous cells, but staging had not yet been done. So I had to travel from Mombasa to Nairobi to an oncologist, non-oncologist known as Dr. Andrew Diambo. I was referred to him. So I went there together with my husband, and he really prepared us psychologically for what it entailed. So after that test, there's another test which is known as HER2 status. It shows the hormone receptors. So I discovered that it was stage 2B after that test. I did further tests. I did CT scan of chest and abdomen. I did a mammogram on both the breasts. I also did a full hemogram. After I had all the results. My two doctors, my oncologist and surgeon, the surgeon was Dr. Eric Pungu. They sat down and they came up with my treatment plan, which was surgery, chemotherapy, and then radiotherapy.
All right. Okay. We'll come back to the whole treatment, you know, journey for you, Mary, in just a second. And Dr. this is where I want you to come in, because this is not the first time we hear a case of relaying of the message to the patients. We had one person who said she was actually called and told, you have cancer, via phone, and then that was it. Of course, this is a difficult, you know, time for people and all those things. But also the question of some of the risk factors, because majority of the time we just hear about cancer here, cancer there, breast cancer, cervical, you know, all these other types of cancer. But one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is to understand how exactly does cancer come about?
So I'm really obviously disturbed to hear how she received the message. But I mean, I'm sure millions of men and women unfortunately go through this traumatic experience.
That's true.
And I think there is a need for more sensitivity among everyone else in the community to whenever we face these people who are going through difficult times. But coming back to the question, which is regarding
how cancer can come,
how cancer gets detected. Now, see, there are some risk factors, as you rightly mentioned, for a lot of cancers. Breast cancers have some risk factors. Cervical cancers have some risk factors. Other cancers also have, colorectal as well have risk factors. And most common risk factors are a family history of cancer, early menarche, that means early puberty, late menopause, not having children could also be a risk factor, not breastfeeding could be a risk factor, taking hormonal medications is a controversial, but well, it's a risk factor which has been documented. So there are a number of risk factors for breast and obesity and diabetes, and all these also could be a risk factor for certain types of cancers.
All right.
Infections also could be risk factor for cancer. So apart from risk factors, what you asked also is the etiology. Why do we have cancers? And cancers are genetic diseases. They are related to our genes. And there could be certain alterations in the normal functioning of genes because of inherent tendencies to have that alteration, or certain environmental conditions such as smoking. One could be a smoker and that could trigger a genetic mutation. One could have a certain kind of foods which could trigger a genetic mutation. So essentially cancer is a genetic disease, and if there is any error in genetic coding, and typically a genetic alteration, which we call as a mutation, scientific term is mutation, that could lead to a cancer. And cancer is nothing but uncontrolled proliferation or growth of cells. When there is loss of control, normally the body's physiology is so beautifully made by whoever made it, the God or whomever we call, they made a control over each of the organ systems, and when we lose that control, that is when a cancer develops.
Can occur. Very quickly, because we need to go on a break, but just don't want to lose this, because you talked about, and especially when it comes to diagnosis, of course, there's the question of biopsy, which again, Mary said it was painful. It was really, really painful. So are there advancements when it comes to diagnosis detection?
Yes. I mean, for breast biopsies these days, we do something called good local anesthesia around the lesion. Then it can be done without much pain. Yes, it is possible to do it. More and more oncology centers are now adopting more safer and lesser invasive ways to take a biopsy. Yes, it's possible. And similarly, for minimally invasive ways, we can take biopsies. There are also something called liquid biopsies, wherein they don't have to even put a needle inside. They can just take a blood sample. And through blood sample, they can diagnose a cancer.
All right, I see that. But when we come back from the break, of course, we also need, because today we're focusing majorly on the advancements that have been made, and especially when it comes to cancer treatment. And one of the things that we have, seen and currently talking about is the proton therapy. So of course, we'd want to understand how different is the proton therapy from the traditional radiation therapy, and of course the benefits of the same, and this is to the patients as well. So of course, all that is coming up after the break. Stay with us. This is Your World. But again, like we said, if you have any question, any concern, what you want to see, in the next few years, and especially when it comes to handling cancer, and of course the diagnosis and the treatment as well, engage with us. And of course, we're here to take all your feedback and your questions as well. But all that is coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Centum Real Estate brings to you 265 Elma 1 Apartments, the newest and most stylish development in Kasarani. Pay a deposit of 250,000 Kenya shillings and the balance in flexible installments or mortgage finance.
With Glovo, you have anything you want from your city in your hands. Kama unatamani ugali beef ama fried chicken, order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. Tamu. Kama game inawaka na unataka drinks zaidi, order Glovo ushangilie timu yako. Na kama your little one amemess na diapers zimeisha, order Glovo and save the day. With Glovo unaweza track order yako na kuongea na customer support, which is always available. Download the app and order anything you want from your city. We'll deliver.
February is the month of love, and this February we've got an amazing activity for all the singles who are ready to mingle. It's going to be an afternoon full of good vibes and awesome activities from speed dating, sip and paint, charades, karaoke, and so much more. Get to enjoy live music from Hard the Band. Catch the Season 3 Episode 1 live recording of the Joyrides podcast. Mark your calendars for February 18th right here at Anzana Gardens from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Get your tickets on Kenya Buzz today. That's www.kenyabuzz.com. Tickets go for 2,000 bob for individual tickets. Lakini kama uko na ambogi of 5 people nashikana, and your only part is 7,500. XOXO, get ready to mingle.
She's my lover, she's my lover.
We'll be talking about a treatment, and that is coronary artery bypass graft surgery.
2018, I started feeling tired and sweat, terribly sweating. So I started experiencing difficulties even in breathing.
Health is wealth, because once you get the disease, it is going to be expensive. So it is better to prevent. Prevention is better than cure.
You should not think this is witchcraft. Yeah. Somebody has thrown disease to me. No.
Grow your biashara by accessing loans, investment options, convenient banking, network opportunities, and so much more. Njoo tukujenge. Visit any one of our 93 branches countrywide. Family Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Claiming your assets is easy. Simply visit UFAA website www.ufaa.go.ke or dial *361# or visit Huduma Center near you.
Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us. The show is Your World, and of course today it's all about the cancer treatment as advancements. And of course we're just trying to understand, so what exactly is happening now? What are some of the technologies that are there, and especially when it comes to cancer, both diagnosis, let's just start from screening, diagnosis, and of course all the way to treatment. And of course we'll be focusing on proton therapy in just a second. But someone on Facebook here says, this is Benjamin Muholo, says, I lost my precious wife to liver cancer in 2020 June. I am so sorry for that, Benjamin. And of course to help us really understand how then can we prevent, and especially reduce the number of daily incidences. This is as far as cancer is concerned, and deaths as well, and make it better, a little bit better and easier for the patients when it comes to accessing treatment. And of course we have Dr. Srinivas Chilukuri, who's a consultant oncologist, as well as Mary Nafula, who is a cancer warrior, joining us via Zoom, just helping us really understand this. So Dr. very quickly, can we just first of all focus on the advancements that have been there before we go to Mary to just understand her journey as far as cancer treatment is concerned?
So the advances, and as you rightly mentioned, there have been in screening, in the diagnosis, and as well as the treatment. In the treatment, I'll focus mainly on the treatment today because there are so many cancer patients now. I mean, the focus is now, in fact, you asked what is the stage of Mary's diagnosis. The stage, all staged patients were treated alike some time back. But now we are focusing from that kind of an approach to more personalized approach, where she mentioned whether she has HER2 positivity or not, estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor. So there are certain types of receptors or types of tumors within the breast cancer, within the stage 3 cancers, which will make, so essentially we are making a headway towards personalized cancers through understanding the genetic alterations which are happening. So that is a major advance, and we have now targeted therapies which can address that particular type of patients. Similarly, we are looking at conservative treatments as far as surgeries are concerned. We are looking at breast conservation, for example, in patients of breast cancers. In say laryngeal cancers, we are not removing the entire voice box, but we are trying to do voice preservation treatments. So we are looking at organ preservation and function preservation approaches, and cosmetically less deforming, less morbid surgeries, quicker recoveries. So similarly, in radiation therapy also has undergone several major advances in the last few decades. Now, radiation does cause a little bit of damage, especially in vulnerable, younger population. They could lose function of a particular organ. They could lose vision sometimes. They could lose, they could develop a swelling over a particular limb. They could lose fertility. So radiation does have, they could lose some amount of cognition, that means the memory, intelligence and everything. So it depends on where radiation is given, so they could have some effect. And the more advanced technologies such as intensity modulated radiation therapy and image guided radiation therapy, which is fortunately there in many centers in Kenya today, are able to reduce those side effects of treatment of radiation. Among all the advances of radiation therapy, we now have something called proton therapy. Proton therapy is an advanced form of radiation therapy, wherein instead of using X-rays, which are used in conventional radiation, we use high energy protons. Protons, as you know, proton, electron, neutron, we've heard of it. So hydrogen atom has a proton and electron. Electron is stripped and the proton beams are used to treat cancers. The good thing about protons is that unlike X-rays, which traverse the body and they don't stop because they don't have mass and charge, they affect the normal healthy organs. Proton therapy, on the other hand, does go to a particular distance, and within the tumor, it gets, it deposits all its entire energy, and there is no exit dose. That means no dose beyond the tumors. So what it means is that the normal healthy structures receive lesser and lesser doses, almost sometimes even 0 doses. And that will help us prevent certain toxicities which are related to radiation therapy. So because of this physical properties, we use proton therapy for certain kinds of cancer, not in all kinds of cancer. The reason being, it is a very large infrastructure required. That is why we have only one such center right now in entire country, which is in Apollo Proton Cancer Center, Chennai. That is the only center in the entire Indian subcontinent which has a proton facility, because the infrastructure required is huge. And because it is not present in every city or every town or every country, it needs to be judiciously used, and we use it very judiciously in certain kinds of patients like children, for patients with brain tumors, very selective patients of breast cancers as well, very selective lung cancers, very selective prostate cancers. So there are certain group of patients who could really benefit in a significant way. How it could improve the control of the tumor. It could also reduce the side effects related to radiation. So because it reduces the side effects, the quality of life is better in patients who are survivors, who are going to survive for next 20, 30, 40 years. They are likely to benefit the most from proton beam therapy.
All right. And of course, the question might be then in terms of, especially when it comes to maybe stay in hospital, as far as, and even the outlook of the same, because again, if the side effects are reduced, then the patient, sort of recovery.
So side effects are reduced, unexpected hospitalizations are reduced, unexpected loss of pay because of they are not attending their work is reduced. There are scientific articles which state state that the hospitalizations have been reduced. The patients are able to join back work much faster. And things like that. So improved quality of life, not just the quantity of life.
Absolutely. I see that. And of course, the question might be then, so can that be used maybe for a patient who has gone through chemotherapy and surgery as well? Or is this just an isolated?
No. So almost all cancer patients are nowadays receiving combinations of surgery, chemotherapy, targeted therapy, and radiation therapy. And so most of the patients who receive protons as well receive either surgery or chemotherapy as well, or both, sometimes.
Okay, all right. But let's speak to Mary very quickly, and then we'll come back to, you know, yes, we said the risks are reduced, but still are there risks that might be involved with the same, and of course, you know, the position of tumor as well. Does that, you know, determine whether someone gets proton or not? She talked about, you know, some cancers and not all of them. The patients would go through proton therapy. But Mary, again, for you, take us through your treatment journey as far as breast cancer is concerned.
I started chemotherapy. I took 8 sessions of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is the worst cancer treatment. It has tough side effects, including loss of hair, loss of memory, stomach cramps. You feel like you are in labor pain, but you cannot give birth to anything. I lost my teeth. I lost 4 teeth. It triggered early menopause on me. You lose memory. You lose track of everything. It is very, very painful when someone is not prepared emotionally, psychologically. It can put you down. Chemotherapy is the toughest, very, very tough. I thank God that I had a strong support system. The church stood by me, my family, my husband, my sons, my daughters-in-law, they were with me. And I also got a good support system for post-hospice. So I was positive about everything. I navigated through everything. So I finished chemotherapy, the 6 months chemotherapy sessions. And then after that, I did 20 sessions of radiotherapy in Nairobi. I had to travel back to Nairobi for radiotherapy. Radiotherapy has side effects, nausea and loss of appetite and tiredness. You just feel tired. But the side effects of radiotherapy are not as tough as chemotherapy. After finishing radiotherapy, I was put on hormonal therapy for 10 years. I normally took tabs known as tamoxifen for 10 years. They also have side effects like numbness. You feel a lot of numbness on your fingers, on your toes, and they make me add a lot of weight. I had added at least like 6 kgs. But recently I started doing exercises, walking. I normally walk 4 kilometers every day, every morning. And I thank God I have reduced 4 kgs and I feel I'm okay. Now, with this treatment, patients need a lot of psychosocial support. These motivated me to start my own foundation known as Warriors of Hope Foundation. The foundation, we have a psychologist with us, we have a doctor with us, we have caregivers, we have cancer survivors and nutritionists. We normally do awareness in the society, in the community, and we encourage people to go for screening because there's a lot of stigma in the society, myths and misconception about cancer. Some people regard this as curse. Some say it's maybe use of family planning. There's a lot of information out there, misleading information. So we had to counter that, and by countering that, me and my team, we normally do the awareness, and we also offer psychosocial support.
I see that. Yeah, I see that, and of course, it's equally, you know, as important as going through the treatment in itself. So the question might be, after going through, you know, the whole treatment journey, how long did it take for you to be given a clean bill of health?
So far, this is my 3rd year. I did chemotherapy for 6 months, and then a month I took doing a radiotherapy. And now I'm on hormonal therapy for 10 years. So normally we are told by my oncologist told me that it takes 5 years for one to be declared cancer-free. So far, ever since I went, last year I went for PET scan, it was all clear. And then this year I'm scheduled to go for PET scan in April.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And Dr. listening to her and what she's talking about, chemotherapy can be brutal, right? For so many people. Again, and radiation as well, like you talked about. So again, so I don't know whether to say compare that to proton. Does this help? Does one have to go through chemo first and then?
First of all, it's very brave of her to speak her a lot of traumatic experience she had. Most of the patients go through that kind of trauma, but I would say that patients. I would like to give a message as an oncologist that. Every patient goes through a different journey. It could be the same breast cancer, it could be same stage 2B, what she mentioned. But every patient goes through a different stage of breast cancer, and what she rightly pointed out, that the social support and everything else, and I can see that she's very, very motivated. She's doing a lot of physical activity. She's underwent psychological counseling. She's doing a lot of service to the community, and that's really brave of her, and congratulations. And we want such patient ambassadors who can help others. But coming back, we cannot just generalize the effects of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is not just one drug. Chemotherapy is now kind of many thousands of drugs. So each cancer will have a different set of chemotherapy which is required, and each of those drugs will have different sets of side effects. So I mean, that's why a patient who's undergoing breast cancer herself could undergo different kinds of chemotherapies. So although majority of what she mentioned, the side effects are quite common for breast cancer patients, but there are patients, say for example lung cancers or say brain tumors or head and neck cancers who receive some other type of chemotherapy, and they have completely different set of symptoms. Similarly, radiation, she mentioned the side effects of nausea and tiredness, which are very common with radiation, which is perfectly well put by her, are a different set of side effects when they are, say, received by a child who have a brain tumor, or an adult who has a lung cancer could have a different set of side effects compared to one. So we cannot generalize, and that is also very important, that the chemotherapy and radiation therapy are not the same in every patient.
Different people, I see that. So then when it comes to the proton therapy then in this sense, because like we said, reduced side effects, reduced time of hospital, reduced the whole treatment aspect of the same, but are there risks that maybe patients need to know about? Well,
the biggest problem with protons is access. That means they are available only in few centers, not just in Kenya, in every part of the world. As I said, India has a population of now 1.3 billion, and we are the only one center. So clearly this is a technology which, because it's such massive technology, the access to the technology is something which all of us are working on, so that deserving patients, irrespective of where they belong to, would receive that kind of treatment. So because the focus now for many cancers is not just surviving a cancer, there are now many cancer survivors. But how effective, how good is their quality of life? How effective is their work-life balance? How effective is their social life? How effective is their participation in community? That is also important. So we are focusing on something called survivorship rather than just survival. And survivorship, proton therapy is one of the components. Now targeted therapies are one of them. Now immunotherapies are also coming in as far as systemic therapy. Robotic surgeries are happening, which are also looking at these survivorship, so that patients undergo less problematic surgeries, less problematic recovery and faster recoveries. And that is what the science is focusing on right now.
Absolutely. And of course that is very key. And like you said, not all types of cancers, of course, one would,
Protons,
would actually go for proton, but then the location as well. Is that sort of like a determinant? on who gets
Yes, yes. So, so there is a big process which we usually adopt at our center at Apollo in Chennai, that we decide based on the requirement, the magnitude of benefit, how far is the patient, how quickly the patient can come, logistics, the cost, and everything has to be put into the equation when we need to decide whether this patient really requires or not. So primarily we use it for children. Children have almost 70, 80, 90% survival with most cancers. And obviously radiation is much more damaging in children compared to adults, where everything is growing.
Yes.
So anything which is growing and radiation is hitting them, it literally can produce long-term damage. So children, brain tumors are almost the majority of the patients of patients receiving proton therapy are children and brain tumors. Apart from that, we are also treating we have treated certain prostate cancers, certain breast cancers, head and neck and skull based tumors, where they are in different locations. There are a lot of nerves and blood vessels and everything going through, and if conventional radiation is given, it could lead to long-term late effects, long-term damage, and therein proton therapy could work really wonders to reduce the amount of dose spill to the normal structures, so that the side effects are limited, the quality of life is very good.
Yeah, it's very good. All right. So are there things that maybe the patient needs to sort of like prepare on, and even the healthcare facility prepare on before administering the proton therapy?
Yes. So most of the times, if a patient is being referred from a center away from India, most of the times the oncologists locally are in touch with us. They talk to the patient, because proton therapy could be a small portion of the treatment in the entire gamut of the treatments which the patient has to receive. So the oncologists are usually in touch with us. They coordinate with us. They say, okay, let's do all these here. Only protons is not available in this particular, say, a particular country. So they refer a patient based on what is the best timing. We are receiving a patient from South Africa next week, and we are in touch with the local oncologists, and we are making sure that everything is perfectly coordinated. We are in fact getting another patient, a child of a brain tumor from Kenya, who we are in touch with the local oncologists here, and the child has undergone surgery, undergone some chemotherapy, and then we are going to receive the child for proton therapy, and then send them back, and they continue their care here in Kenya. So that is how the preparation usually goes.
Okay. All right. And Mary, very quickly, because we literally have like around 4 minutes to go before we end the conversation, having gone through this journey, and I know majority of the times when we mention cancer, a lot of people, are scared. There's a lot of stigma, again, still surrounding, the whole question about cancer. And even yourself, you said you started planning for your own funeral, when you received your diagnosis. So what is it that you'd want to tell people, and especially when it comes to, number one, being aware, about cancers, and also our health-seeking behavior?
I would urge the government to declare cancer a national disaster, because many people perish due to the cost of treatment. Once someone starts the treatment, it's already advanced. It's very difficult for a common somebody from the ground to afford the cost of the procedures. The diagnostic procedures are very, very expensive. Another thing is that psychosocial support should be affordable, should be everywhere in the government hospitals, because many people have mental issues. Some are suicidal. Once one is diagnosed, they become suicidal because they don't see anything. They feel crushed. So I urge the government to improve, especially healthcare on matters cancer. Another thing is that people should not, cancer is not a death sentence, and people should support cancer patients. It's a high time that the communities accept that cancer can get anybody. Anybody can get cancer regardless of what. No one is safe. So people should embrace the screening procedures. People should not be afraid, and support cancer patients. It's not a death sentence. It's curable only if someone follows the treatment religiously.
All right, and of course you talked about you're still going through the hormonal therapy. Is that what you said? Yeah. So how are you doing now? How are you feeling now?
Yeah, I thank God that I'm progressing well, though few challenges here and there, like it's called chemo brain effect. Forgetting, I always forget things. Sometimes I need a navigator to assist, and the numbness. But I'm well. I manage. I manage.
Yeah.
Yes, and I also urge people to join us in my foundation, Warriors of Hope in Mombasa, so that we can help the community detect early cancer cases.
Okay.
Because cancer is curable.
Okay, I like that. Thank you very much, Mary, really for speaking with us this morning. And as we bring this to a close, what is it that you'd want people to know? Because we talked about early, first of all, going for screening, which is important. Early detection as well is important, and also embracing some of this, advancements that have been made, and especially when it comes to cancer treatment. What is it that you'd want people to walk away from from this conversation?
I think what she rightly said is public education is the key.
Yeah.
I think with knowledge and awareness, we can really tackle cancer to the best extent possible.
Yeah.
So my message is that, of course, the technologies will always emerge. The better and better treatments will always emerge. Hopefully, will help cancer patients. What she mentioned about the psychological support, which should be provided to all patients. So essentially, I think education is the key. Education for screening, education about cancer, and what she mentioned, that every patient, any person can develop cancer. So at any age, we see childhood cancers, we see geriatric cancer. So irrespective of age, location, risk factors, how their body habitus is, what their habits are, one could develop cancer. So they should embrace the testing. They should, that's why education is the key. I think public education, we can to a large extent, we can limit the cancer burden.
Absolutely. And then when it comes to treatment, the future of treatment, and especially when it comes to cancers, yes, like we said, technologies of course will keep advancing, but what is it that you'd want to see? Because like we said, for example, the case of proton therapy, it's only available in only one center. So what is it that you would like to see maybe like 5-10 years from now, and especially when it comes to cancer treatment, given the technologies that we have, so that we move from curative aspect to more preventive?
So yes, so I hope our focus moves more from cure to preventive aspects. Now the main focus is cure, because once the cancer develops, we are looking at curative options. We want these technologies, which such as proton therapy technologies, which are revolutionary technologies, to be available to far more people. And I hope in the next 5-10 years, there'll be more number of centers, more such centers even in Kenya, and maybe in this subcontinent, where patients who really deserve this kind of technology, they really get it at the right time, at the right cost, at an affordable cost for the deserving patients. So I think future is bright. Let's hope that more and more patients will get better from cancer.
Absolutely. And of course, we end the show on a hopeful note, which is a good thing. Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivas Chilukuri, who's a consultant oncologist, coming by today, just to really help us understand the advancements. How do we take advantage of these advancements when it comes to cancer treatment, and just make them as available as possible, and especially to all the patients, who deserve this. But even for us as a people, really, number one, be aware that, cancers are here, but what is it that we can do, what changes that we can make, as well as far as rather preventing cases of cancer. Not forgetting Mary Nafula, who is a cancer warrior, who joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much, Mary, really, for sharing your story with us. And of course, we wish you all the very best, even as you continue, with treatment, but also passing all the awareness out there as far as cancer is concerned to the society. So thank you so much, for that as well. And this is where we bring the conversation to a close. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know you've learned a lot from today's conversation. We all have a role to play, in this. That is making sure that we have the correct information and pass as much awareness as well as possible. But most importantly, that is embracing screening, and especially, like Dr. mentioned, to those people who qualify, right, for screenings. Just make sure that you go for screenings, and see what is happening with your body. So have yourselves a good one. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time. No, I'll see you next week on Monday. Tomorrow is Friday. Radio meets TV, and I know you're going to enjoy that. But have yourselves a lovely weekend as well. I will see you on Monday, same time, same place, right here on Your World. Stay safe. Goodbye.